All right, any given Sunday sports special. It's me, Jesus. I got my man Anthony on the other side. Anthony, how you doing, bruh?
We are going to be all right. I know that we all had a tough week. Things didn't turn out the way we wanted to in fantasy and probably in real life, but we going to be all right.
Yeah, in the words of some old school hip hop, we gonna make it. All right, we gonna make it.
Exactly.
Let's get it. We got so many games to get to. Let's get through the probably let's say the worst of the worst this week. The two teams that couldn't break 100 points. We're gonna do Tampa's Empire versus You Can Still Suck It. In Dom, it was 99-72. Steve pulls off the not the narrow victory, but pulls off the victory. Anthony, I'll give you the floor first, man. What do you got to say about this?
I can't really knock Dom's effort. There were some questionable substitutions there that I expect a little bit more of. I understand why you don't start Drew Brees against Denver, but it really worked out more in Brees' favor than anything else. Matt Ryan was pretty much a good play against Philadelphia because after seeing what the Giants did the week before, you figure that with that offense, they'd have a great game. It just didn't work out the way it was supposed to. I was surprised that he didn't start Cooks. I know that you usually try to pair them two together, but if you're going to have the number one guy out there, just kind of see what happens. Lamar Miller had a solid game. AJ Green had an average game for his standard. I didn't fully understand the Mike Wallace thing. Yes, going back to Brandon Cooks, he should have been in there. Olsen underperformed at the great week by Stewart. It was an underperformance. A good job by the Texas defense. But on the opposite side, it was a very smart pickup for Steve to pick up Marcus Mariota. Another solid week, another great game. Des Bryant finally showed up for him. He didn't get much from Mike Evans, but he got a score from Demaryius Thomas that worked out well for him. And like I said, not breaking 100 seems to be a problem for this team. But for this week and this week alone, it was enough to get him to survive. But what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts on it are these are just two teams that are just mediocre, unfortunately. And Dom, I think, is actually a better team. I like Dom's team better in this case overall. If, the matchups are right with Breeze and Cooks. And I like a Lamar Miller if he could get the right matchups. I just think Dom has more options week in and week out. Steve, on the other hand, while I like Mike Evans, the Des Bryant, we don't know what Des Bryant you're going to get week in and week out. I like Andrew Luck. I'm a fan of T.Y. Cooper hasn't been consistent, but this team is the same problem that I've been saying from the beginning, which is running back. You just don't know what running back to play in each week. And again, it showed this week. He made the wrong choice, unfortunately, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't have played Ryan Matthews either after what the coach was saying. And he got the victory, which is all that matters. I believe he's 2 games up in his division with 3 left to go. So he's sitting pretty. He's sitting in good shape. But with that being said, this is a team that I don't see making a deep playoff run. Unless he can find a running back, they're not going to go deep into the playoffs. They might be out in the first round.
The most important thing is that they have to get there. And I think with their upcoming schedule, like I said, a lot of our league is definitely dependent upon quarterback play.
Yep.
Like next week, he's going to go with Luck, but they play Tennessee, then it's Pittsburgh, New York, Houston. So there's some favorable matchups there, and there's not. But I absolutely 100% have to agree with you. At the trade deadline, there was a possibility to try to move one of those wide receivers, one of those big pieces for a running back somewhere, and having that gap when there's only so many elite players out there, and running backs can be fickle. But if you get a consistent one who's going to give you, at least double digits every week, it's definitely a plus.
Yep.
Like I said, Ryan Matthews was not a good choice. I mean, you're left with Matt Asiata, and Darren Sproles. Now, I'm not certain if either one of those options were better than Giovanni Bernard. Maybe, maybe not, but who knows? But sometimes you got to get a chance to roll the dice and just see, if I put a guy in here, let me see what happens. That actually happened with a game that we're going to speak about later, but like I said, that running back situation has to be cleared up, but it's too late for that. He just hopes his wide receivers show up and carry him into the playoffs, but he's got 3 weeks to prove it.
That's right. Next up, let's go to the next game. We're going to go to McPoon Handlers 106, New York Powers 86. Anthony, my man, what you got for this one?
It's hard to complain about what happened to the Powers, and I'll explain. It kind of goes back to the last preview that we had. Of course, the Denver defense is tough. That's great. But when you have your star guy, you run with your star guy. And I know that we had a discussion before trying to switch back and forth between Rivers and Brady. And Brady at the time, at the later game, just seemed like a better matchup. That offense was really moving. spreading the ball around,
Yep.
a lot of options. I did not expect 10 points from him. If he has an average week, it probably becomes a little bit closer and probably works out in the end. And another thing on your behalf, like you just weren't aware about the situation with Ty Montgomery. Rest in peace, Ty, because I don't think you're losing the powers, but
Nope.
that's not there. You try to finagle with the best matchups possible, and you did. You expect a little bit more from Terrell Pryor. That didn't work out. Gronk was going pretty steady until he took that hit, but your other guys performed.
Yeah.
Antonio was performing like he was supposed to. Same thing with Odell Beckham. Same thing with Melvin Gordon. The Broncos defense stepped up. That's fine and dandy. Now on your team, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in double figures. On the opposite side, I see 4. The big difference is that Ben Roethlisberger gets you 36, and we have a 26-point difference between your quarterbacks.
You lose every time.
Yeah, and every week you just wait. You're basically just hoping that it kind of just sort of balances it out. Like if he gets 28, maybe Mike gets 25, and I got to make up the points in other places, which your team is built to do.
Yeah.
But having that, and then out of nowhere, like I said, sometimes you put in a guy and just kind of see what happens. With Rich, I don't think he had much of an option. Like everyone else was on. Yeah, he's on a bye.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Everyone was on a bye. It was just okay. So I'll just toss in Willie Snead because I don't have any other option. And Snead gives you 16, and that has not been him since early in the season. Because even though he gets 16, his last
against Denver
games, last 4 games, 4, 8, 5, and 3. That's it. He hasn't been the guy. It's been really going to Michael Thomas, who had a terrible weekend, but he'll recover.
Yeah.
Now, I would say it's more of just a weird weekend for the Powers than a great job by McCoon, because if that happens 9 times out of 10, I don't think Brady has that game. I think Montgomery is absolutely out of the lineup, and I think that it definitely sways it a little bit more in your favor. It just happens that the numbers game happened to work in his favor, and that's all I can really say about it. It wasn't a bad loss by the Powers. It was just that certain things and opportunities did not come to the fruition that they wished, but I think they'll have a tough game next week. But this week is just one of those things that happened to me last week, and it happened to me with Rich also. It just, these things happen, and we just move forward and go on to the next game. But this is your team. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, first and foremost, I give props to Rich. He broke 100, so when you break 100, you put yourself in position to win. On my end, I mean, it was pretty simple. Brady putting up 10 points, and Ty Montgomery, I know you said that he's probably not going to be in my lineup. He's not even on my team anymore after that performance. So, yeah, you move on. We move on quickly from that. So, there really wasn't much of this. We knew, look, going into this game, I felt I was going to win because I felt that Ty Montgomery was going to be the guy. Last minute, James Starks being put active definitely scared me. And now you see why it scared me, because I knew that was going to cut into Ty Montgomery. I just didn't know it was going to cut into it this much.
Yeah.
That was where the issue was. Jarvis Landry, I was debating back and forth whether to play him, but because of the shoulder injury, I didn't. I'm really not mad at myself with the coaching decisions that I made here. I think I did the best coaching decisions I could have possibly made with the information that I had. It was just one of those weeks, and I haven't had one of these weeks in a while, so this is one of those that you chalk it up, and we hope, okay, as long as this doesn't become a trend, we can survive this. So we'll see. We got more games coming up, 3 games left to go. I control my own destiny. I win out, I'm in the playoffs, so I even win the division possibly if I win out. So we just got to go ahead and keep chugging forward with these last 3 games. We're in the home stretch.
Yep, keep it positive. Never know what happens.
That's right. Next game we're gonna do Drugs Delaney 88 to the Dream Killers 106. All of a sudden the Dream Killers try to make a late push into the playoffs. What do you got for me on this one, Ant?
The Dream Killers made the move that we always expected him to move, and he finally got himself a quarterback. I think if he'd have made this move a lot earlier in the season, he would have been in a lot more comfortable position.
Yep.
He picks up Dak Prescott, who gives him 22, which is the weird thing because that Sunday night game, Russell started to look a little bit more like himself and puts up 31.
That's 2 weeks in a row. All of a sudden, Russell's been playing well.
Yeah, and it's not the scrambling. It's really just him sitting in the pocket and just being himself. He hasn't gotten a lot of rushing yards. Yep. He had a rushing TD last week against Buffalo, but that was really it. It's a lot of just him being in that offense. It seems to be a little bit more healthy. The wraps come off the ankle. He's moving around a bit more. He's not scrambling, but he's doing just enough to survive. And like I said, his big guys is Le'Veon Bell, another excellent game. like we're past the point of the trade deadline. Anything else to be really worried about? This guy or that guy. But like again, with that quarterback situation in New York, I know it's the stadium's there.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They should be called the New Jersey Jets. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. Over the past few weeks, he hasn't really gotten anything from Brandon Marshall, and I mean his only possible option would be maybe put in Jeremy Maclin, and that's not great either. Delaney Walker shows up. I think that's a terrific job by him. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs give up 17, but the fact that they get their defensive scores, so on and so forth, it gives them that 13, which really puts them over the top. On the opposite side, I think that Drugs Delaney should start to worry just a bit. Having Cam Newton there and getting 25, and that's great. Like I said, you want your quarterbacks to cancel each other out, and you want the rest of the way to kind of, this is the quarterbacks, that's fine. Let's make sure the rest of the roster can do what it can do. Now, if you have Larry Fitzgerald and you have Randall Cobb, okay. I agree with Larry. I don't agree with Randall Cobb. He had one really solid game. Outside of that, he has not truly been himself. Yep. And those were earlier in the season. The fact that you leave Doug Baldwin on the bench, who has 23. You leave Stephon Diggs on the bench, which has 16. You leave LeGarrette Blount on the bench, who has 24. And I understand people are like all up in arms about, C.J. Anderson's hurt. We have Devontae Booker, but that offense just isn't running the same way when Anderson was in there. I don't see the big runs or the big breaks. And the same thing with Terrence West. I don't understand it's Cleveland, but their offense had scored a lot of points all season. 28 is the highest that the Baltimore Ravens have scored this entire season. That's just not going to do it. And he hasn't been a great matchup all week. He left a lot of points in the bench that could have really subbed in any one of those matchups. If he switches in any one of those guys, there's a really good shot at winning. But it didn't happen. So in the future, I think he really has to look out to the matchups, see where the game flow is. I know LeGarrette Blount can be tricky because that
against Seattle. It was against Seattle too, which scares you.
Yeah, and it was with them. You never know. It might be Brady tossing the ball 60 times or Brady handing the ball off 60 times. They go with whatever the matchups go, and with a tough defense like that's as adequate against the run as they are against the pass, you don't know how the matchups are going to go. But sometimes you just got to roll the dice, and they were like really simple, very comfortable choices that were made there. I mean, between West and Cobb, if you take them out and put him Baldwin and Blunt, he blows Dream Killers out. I think Dream Killers should be proud of the win. It was just some really interesting choices made by Drugs Delaney. I think they can come back. I think more importantly, even right now that Lewis is making a little rush up the stands, their record is still the same, and they're both still tied for second. So Drugs Delaney really needed this win in a more comfortable position. But I can't get mad at the guy, but I can get mad at him because certain decisions that were made, in all honesty, they kind of sucked. But what are your thoughts on this game? It was an interesting game to me. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, in this game, this is the game Lewis deserved. His guys, I said this once he changed that quarterback, I knew his team was going to vastly improve, and they have. And Brandon Marshall has yet to even show up, which is very scary. Same goes for Emmanuel Sanders. On the other side with Dennis, you said you're worried about Dennis. You're ready to panic. I'm actually feeling the opposite. I actually don't think he should panic because of, if you look at his bench, all those points that were left there, Doug Baldwin, LeGarrette Blount, and then you also have Stephon Diggs, and then you had Crabtree on a bye week. These are all guys that he's going to be able to play in the future and make better decisions, and it's only going to help him because it's going to give him more depth. And this is why I've said it before, I'll say it again, the best team in this division I still believe is Dennis. And this is why I'm not counting Dennis out yet, because of the simple fact that Dennis, with that roster, hands down from top to bottom, is the most complete team there, which he can win out the last three, beat Steve in one of those games, and then he just needs Steve to lose somewhere else. And then all of a sudden, Dennis takes that division. So go ahead.
No, I want you to finish your thought, then I want to follow up.
Yeah, so that's why for me, I'm still not counting Dennis out because to me, Dennis's team is more capable of longevity in this division and breaking 100 points. If you look at the rosters and you say week to week, okay, which team in that division is capable of dropping 100 points each week, you would take Dennis's team over Steve's team every single week because of the simple fact that Dennis has running backs, Dennis has receivers, but don't be so. And realistically speaking, Dennis has tight ends too. I mean, Eric Ebron was on a bye, but Eric Ebron's been a pretty solid tight end.
Correct. I think my rule, and I try to run pretty firm to it. If I'm playing another team and I see their quarterback And if I happen to have their number one target on my team, I play them just to kind of level it out. And I understand that you might feel very comfortable with Cobb, but if you have Baldwin and you know that it's going to be a tough matchup, but you know that their quarterback's going good. He's been going to this guy for the past couple weeks. Maybe even if I know that say Lewis didn't start Russell Wilson, and he didn't, and that's great. But if I know that a quarterback's going hot, I should probably put his player in. Like just regardless of matchups. Sometimes when a quarterback gets on those streaks, you got to play him. And we've seen this. We saw this last year when all of a sudden down the stretch, Russell Wilson really started to get hot, and a lot of those targets went really to Doug Baldwin. It's been happening the past couple weeks. So it's something in the future that I would probably say he needs to look out for. That if that quarterback's cooking, you got to go with your guy. Like I have Jameis Winston, and I think past couple weeks he's been doing great. So it's been great for me, but it's absolutely in a way been great for Steve also because he has Mike Evans, and a lot of those targets are going his way. So when you see a hot quarterback out there, even if he's not on your roster, even if another team's not playing that guy, if you know that he's going good, you should probably go with him. I mean, it's probably the same thing where Dom starts Breeze, and of course, I think you should start Cooks just to put that together. But okay, it didn't really do that great for Dom, but it really did help Rich by him putting up that 16. His quarterback's going good regardless of defense. You put that guy out there. Just something to look out.
No, it makes sense. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how that division turns out. Last game, we got a slightly punty vibe. 116 loses to all effing losers. 151. Anthony, my man.
Pops, he makes me sick. He just won't die. Not in real life. Like, I want him to live a long, healthy life. But in a fantasy sense, he just won't die. And I can't look. If you play a team where only one person gets single digits, you kind of deserve it. And I was kind of frustrated by he puts in Tyrell Williams and he says Allen Robinson. If he put in Allen Robinson, he would have put up close to 170 points.
Yep.
I'm glad that he didn't. It makes me feel better as a man that didn't, because it would have been embarrassing. And it's not as if my team played bad.
Not at all.
Forte gets double figures. DeMarco gets 27.
If you play anybody else in this league, you win.
Yeah, but that's the second week it's happened when I one of the second highest scoring, and it's always falling apart. Johnson, he had a tough game, but he still gets his 2 touchdowns, 100 total yards. Like I said, I was speaking before about being worried about Brandon Marshall. I'm worried about DeAndre Hopkins because I think he's probably cost me a couple of games, but even if I would have switched in and put in a different matchup like Shepard or Eifert, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference because his guys were on fire. And you have Rodgers putting up 30, Ezekiel Elliott putting up a fantastic 38 yards in a terrific game.
Yep.
Tyrell Williams, 125 yards receiving, a touchdown. Great job. Same thing with Antonio Gates. Adams doesn't score, but he gets 156 yards. And I have Jordan, he has Adams. I'm thinking it leaves a little bit more this way, but they're becoming a more of an aired out offense. So Who knows? I didn't expect 10 from Kenny Britt, but I can't get mad because the guys who perform for him, and they overperform. And the guys that you kind of sort of to expect to perform okay, everyone overperformed. So it's a lot of props to Pops. It's just a great job. I can't get mad at the guy. Hopefully I get my revenge. I'm just trying to do my best to keep him out of the playoffs because he's going for broke right now, and I don't want to deal with him. But you know what? This is your show. Tell me what you think. Talk me off the ledge.
I mean, number one, DeAndre Hopkins. I sounding the alarm. I don't think he's any longer no matter what, matchup proof receiver anymore. I think he's a guy that you have to start playing based off matchups. I know you don't want to admit that. I know it's hard because it's DeAndre Hopkins, but it's
not his fault.
But it's not his fault. But at the end of the day, the numbers are what they are. It's not his fault, but that's his quarterback. So you're only as good as your quarterback is. So that's something you really have to start looking at and say to yourself, okay, you're gonna have to start playing matchups with him. You can't keep rolling them out. I mean, you want to against me by all means. I'm all for it because that's most likely I'm gonna win that position then. But I'm just telling you, as far as making it to the playoffs and doing some damage, this guy can't be he's not a David Johnson. He's not Antonio Brown. He's not Julio Jones, like you like to say, or any of these guys. He's just not. On the other side, Pops is getting hot, and he's getting hot at the right time. And this is where he can become a major issue. And this is reminding me of his first championship run, where he struggled, and then he made a late run at the end, made the playoffs, and won it all. So I'm telling the league, and I'm telling myself this too, we have to put this dog down. Because if we don't, this dog is going to kill us all.
Quickly.
Yes.
Quickly.
So
he's got to go.
He's got to go immediately. But there's nothing you did wrong here, Anthony. Realistically, even DeAndre Hopkins putting up only 4, you still put up 116 points. But I will say this: if you don't fix that quarterback situation, you, my friend, are not winning a championship. If you look at the history of our league, the champions have always had quarterbacks. It's since this league has started till today. No one has ever won a championship without a top 10 or top 5 quarterback. It just doesn't happen. So just giving you the heads up, yeah, that's something you definitely want to make sure you fix. With that being said, we got to get into these week 11 games. So let's go ahead. Let's get right to it. The first game we're going to go into here is 2 4-6 teams. You Can Still Suck It Dom versus Drugs Delaney and Dennis. This one has implications where the loser is probably out of the playoffs. What are you looking at here, Anthony?
I think there's going to be a lot of tough matchups. And I think if Drugs Delaney is going to pull through, this has to be the week. But for me, I'm going to go with let's go with Dom. And I'll try to explain quickly. In the NFC South, there's 2 truths. All the offenses are fairly good. All the defenses are fairly bad. And I think having Drew Brees, having Stewart, having Cooks, and having Olsen. So this Thursday is an extremely big game for Dom. If those guys can light it up, I think he can close it out early. Lamar Miller against Oakland, that's a so-so defense. I think he could do a good job there. AJ Green against Buffalo. Buffalo's defense is fairly tough, but AJ scored last night. He's still a tough matchup. And I think, they're still trying to game plan and they're trying to work their way into the playoffs. So I think that he has a solid game. But again, that Thursday game is crucial. You got 4 guys going. And it can't be your average Thursday night game. We need to see some offense from everybody involved. If that doesn't happen, it's going to be Drugs Delaney. But I'm going to choose Dom because I'm looking at the matchups with Drugs Delaney. I think LeGarrette Blount won't have the week he had last week. I think Tom Brady still has something to prove. I think he wants to say last week was a fluke. We can do a hell of a lot better. I think he starts to air it out. I think Stephon Diggs against Arizona is a tough matchup. We just saw what the Philly defense did. There's a solid defense against Doug Baldwin. The Giants defense has stepped up, and right now he's going with Jordan Howard. He's going to need a lot of points from Cam Newton on that Thursday night game. I think that Thursday night game is big for both guys, but I think that it ends up eventually becoming a shootout. And I think for this week that Dom pulls it through, and I think this might be the game that knocks out Dennis. But I think you might think different. What are your thoughts?
You are exactly right. I think differently. Dennis, when the going gets tough and the bright lights are on, Dennis usually finds a way to win. And I think that's what happens here. I'm going to go with Dennis because of the simple fact that I think there's way too many guys going on Thursday night for Dom. Dom has 4 guys going on Thursday night. And if there's ever a game that you never want to have guys going, it's on Thursday night. And this guy has half his starting lineup going. I don't like that. I really don't, because he's relying. So, for example, if Jonathan Stewart's scoring, that means Greg Olsen isn't scoring. That's a problem. And if Greg Olsen is scoring, that means Cam Newton is scoring. So he's taking points away from him. On top of that, I'm going to go with Drugs Delaney. I just think, and I disagree with you as far as LeGarrette Blount. But you could run against the San Francisco defense right now. I think LeGarrette Blount is going to have at least 2 touchdowns in this game. I agree. I don't like Stephon Diggs against Arizona or Larry Fitzgerald against Minnesota. But he has limited. I would probably go with Michael Crabtree if I were him. That's just my opinion. As far as the Philly defense is excellent when they're at home. Unfortunately, they're at Seattle. They're not the same defense as Eli showed whenever they're on the road. So I'm going to go with Dennis in this one. Let's go ahead. We're going to go to the next game. Next one I want to discuss is going to be McPoon handling GOAT engines at 6-4 versus all effing losers. What do you got on this one?
Give me McPoon.
I hope so.
I'm saying that begrudgingly because I'm looking at certain matchups and I really want to pick Pops, but in reality, I kind of need him to lose in like the worst way. And it's not hate; it's just being.
Hate, but that's just one less team to worry about, especially this team.
It was like I was pretty much ahead in the division. Then a couple things just went wrong, so the losses started to come and pile up. So it's tighter than it should be, and I'm just saying that from my perspective. With McPoon, I think Ben Roethlisberger against Cleveland. I know that Cleveland is a game. People say they've been playing teams close and so on and so forth.
Not lately.
Yeah, but they're still they're winless. So no matter what you say in regards to that, when a team is just winless, there's not much you can really say or do. Like they're just not good, especially at this point in the season. I like the matchup with Kelce against Tampa Bay. I'm not certain if he's really going to go with Snead again. I don't think you can catch magic in a bottle twice. I don't believe he has many options in regards to that because it's something that we discussed earlier in the season with Julio, with Devonta, and with Tevin. When you have all those guys on your team, it can work both ways, but it really hurts in a week like this when every single one of those guys are off and you don't really have much in regards to other options. Carlos Hyde is, he did not run great this week. He's still dealing with that shoulder injury, so that's pretty much questionable. Again, another Thursday night game. You hope Kelvin Benjamin shows up in regards to that. But on the opposite side, Ezekiel Elliott's a monster. Aaron Rodgers is a monster. I think you get a lot of scoring from that. I think that Allen Robinson, I think it's a good play this week against Detroit. Detroit is still a really good defense, and I know Jacksonville's at home, but they don't really hold much of an advantage there. So I think it's back to the old Allen, which is the new Allen for the season. I don't know if Devontae Adams has that game like he had this week. I don't see 156 yards again in his future. I'm certain that Pops will figure out something at tight end because I know that Antonio Gates is out. Spencer Ware's a solid matchup. I don't trust Kenny Britt again. Like I said, you have Stephen Hauschka. He has options. I mean, you can put in Ingram or Gurley, but they're going to figure into one of the flex spots. Jeffrey, for some reason, thought that PEDs would help him, but apparently it did not this season, so he's out there. I think it's strong, but I think if I'm going with my heart, it's with the losers. But I'm going with my head, so I'm hoping that McPoon can pull this out. Again, I think this is some way that you're going to feel differently, so give me your thoughts.
I'm actually going to go here with Pops, unfortunately. Yeah, I know, but I'm just keeping it real, man. Aaron Rodgers against Washington. Zeke Elliott, doesn't matter who he's going against, he's going to put up points. Devontae Adams, I don't think he's going to do that great. I think Washington is going to play a lot of ball control, keep the Green Bay offense off the field, so I do see that happening. Spencer Ware against Tampa Bay. I love that. And then on top of that, he may play Doug Martin this week too. And yeah, I'm sorry, man. On the other side, I just look at it. I think Big Ben's going to do well, but we don't know what you're going to get from Hyde. You don't know what you're going to get from Benjamin. You don't know what you're going to get from Edelman. Travis Kelce, realistically, we don't know what we're going to get from him week in and week out also. So, yeah, I think this is going to be Pops, and I think it's going to be Pops handily, believe it or not, which gives Pops another week that he's alive, and then it's going to be on me to try to put him to sleep in the next one. So, yep, that's where I'm going with that. Next game we're going to do Tampa's Empire versus the Dream Killers. Tampa's Empire has an opportunity here to put Dream Killers to bed and clinch the division with a victory. Well, not clinch the division, but come within one game of clinching the division. What do you have for me here, Anthony?
Let me get the Empire, and it's really because Luck's returning. I think a week off gives his body a little bit of time to heal. I think that Mike Evans will have a solid game against Kansas City. Having Hilton back definitely helps. I know you questioned before the issue with Des Bryant. He really showed something last week, with the loss of his father, so rest in peace with that. Yeah. But in reality, you're starting to see them expand the offense a bit more. It's definitely, a Dak and Zeke-centric offense, but you still need Des to be that threat. And he was last week. He looked healthy. He looked quick. Amari Cooper is a good matchup, but it's not the greatest.
Not against Houston. Houston's a good secondary.
Yeah, it's. I know Watt isn't there, but it's still a fairly talented secondary. Now on the opposite side, You have Dak against Baltimore. Again, Baltimore does not put up a lot of points, but their defense is ranked in the top five in fantasy wise.
Hmm.
They they're not like there's no one outstanding on that defense. They're just solid and they do their job. Now, I think that they'll be giving up a lot more to Elliott than they would be to Prescott. And I mean, that happens. That's kind of what's expected. I think Le'Veon Bell's a really good matchup. The same thing with Delaney Walker. Um, I like Jay Ajayi, but I think going against that Rams front four, it won't be as easy. I know he had those great games coming off, but this week it wasn't that solid a game. He has a better matchup next week with San Fran, but the Rams can play pretty tough. And I think the Rams are really going to try to slow it down a lot since they're going to start Jared Goff this week. They want to really try to play ball control, keep the hands out of Miami's hands, so it might not be that many carries for him. Frank Gore is the running back who never dies, but I think that Tennessee matchup is really tough. Tennessee's just a lot better than I actually expected them to be, and I'm going to go with the Empire this week. I feel solid about it. I think that Steve really, I know that he's away, but I think he might make some other moves or something to that degree or readjust his lineup because right now he has a golden opportunity to really put a stamp on this division and try to not worry about the future or just try to get himself to the playoffs and worry about it then. But for this week, let me go with the Empire. And your feelings on it, sir?
Man, we're just different on everything right now. I'm taking Dream Killers in this, and to
We're going
me,
to be different
yeah,
on
and to
this.
me, I'm taking the Dream Killers confidently.
We're gonna be different on this game, and I know we're going to be different on the next game.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
this is as confident as a pick as I think there is. I mean, Jay Ajayi, yeah, he's going against the Rams, but I think he's going to do very well against the Rams with that offensive line in Miami. I think Frank Gore is going to do well against Tennessee. I think Le'Veon Bell is going to do great against Cleveland. I'm not done. I think Dak Prescott is going to do great against Baltimore. I think even if he plays Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson's going to do great against Philly, no matter where he goes there. Delaney Walker is going to explode against the Colts. On the other side, Theo Riddick is the running back. Well, which running back is going to be the one that blows up for Steve this week? We have no idea. Des Bryant, I don't trust. You know how I feel about him. I think Mike Evans is going to have a great game. T.Y. Hilton, yeah, he's good, but Moncrief is there, so that hurts T.Y.'s value, as I've been saying. Minnesota defense is the Minnesota defense that's been leaking quite a bit. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to bounce back this week, but still, they haven't been that Minnesota defense. Give me Lewis in this one, and I mean, I'm capped. I don't know what it is that you. I mean, I guess the luck thing is what you're going based on, Andrew Luck. But yeah, I think the matchups are so much in favor of Lewis that to me it's Lewis all day in this game.
you know what? At this point, I can't really guarantee anything, but the only thing I can guarantee in regards to picks, one of us is going to be 4-0 and the other is going to be 0-4.
Let's go ahead and let's do the game of the week. The game of the week, Anthony, is me and you. The Powers versus a slightly punty Vive. What do you got for me in this one, Ant?
It's going to be tight. I think the projections have in a line of 14. I think that's just going to be incorrect. You're going to do something about that defense. I'm going to do something about my kicker.
It's the tight end, but they have a zero on Gronk right now because they don't
Yeah,
expect him to play. Mm-hmm.
you're going to absolutely fix that. And like I said, between your defense and my kicker, mine gets 11, yours gets 10, so that's a wash. Um, for me, I think that I need this. I think we can pull this through. Um, I've lost. No, that's not the truth. I haven't lost faith in Carson Palmer. I just don't like that matchup this week against Minnesota. David Johnson's a terrific running back. One way or another, he's going to get his 100 yards, either by land, sea, or air. I think he eventually gets into the end zone. And like I said, I don't trust that Minnesota offense at all. They just haven't been performing. I know that Stephon Diggs had a great game last week, but now it's against a better defense, so I don't think that's going to work out. Jordy Nelson against Washington, I think that's a solid matchup. I'm going with Reed for now. I might switch over to Eifert. He had a really good game, and I think he's really starting to show up, but we're going to see about that. I get LaShawn McCoy back. DeMarco Murray's been terrific. On your side, I think that you have a really solid team. I think Tom Brady goes off. I think the big difference is that now you have to kind of squeeze in Robert Kelly when Melvin Gordon's been carrying for a really long time. The issue with Gronk being hurt. Now we're going to see if he does or does not play. If he's healthy enough to play, I think he goes, especially against that defense. I think that'll be fine. I think Moncrief is a terrific matchup. We discussed it before. Whenever Hilton and Moncrief are on the field, a lot of those targets tend to go more towards Moncrief's way. Like I know, Hilton's Luck's guy, but he just has a better rapport with Moncrief more than anything else.
Yep.
Now it's going to be tight. I don't trust that spread at all. I think I have some solid matchups.
Yeah, the spread has 2 zeros on my lineup right now, so it's not that's the only reason why it's showing that.
Yeah, and I'm not stressing that at all. I think the matchup comes down to if the guys on my team, the firepower on my team shows up, I think I can win. If your guys show up and my guys show up, but Brady goes back to being Tom Brady, which he should against San Francisco, he's absolutely 100% not Carson Palmer. He's not going to make those same silly mistakes that Carson Palmer did. That matchup between him and Winston is a really big one. I think that's the matchup they may swing it your way. But I think with Johnson, having McCoy back a week off, getting that hamstring healthy, having DeMarco Murray against Indianapolis, which is a terrible run defense, I just think that a slightly punty vibe pulls this off, gets a little bit closer to the playoffs, can breathe a little bit easier. But that's my team. What about yours?
It's just funny because every time I play you, there's always something going on with me, and it's like, but it's okay because I still think I'm going to win this game. And I think I'm going to win this game because of Tom Brady. He's going to go absolutely crazy. I'm actually happy that they lost last week because by them losing last week, they are angry. They are going to go to San Francisco. They're going to score points, a lot of points, and it's going to be fun to watch. To go with that, I know you said Rob Kelly. I'm putting Rob Kelly over Melvin Gordon. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to miss Melvin Gordon. Rob Kelly, I don't know if you saw what he did to the Minnesota defense, but he ran for, I believe, almost 100 yards against them.
Wait. But I'm not calling Rob a bum. I'm not calling him that at all. I'm just saying, if that's your back, I think it's from what you have gone, the disparity between him and Gordon.
Yeah, okay, so then, but that's what I'm getting at, right? So he's not Gordon, right? Gordon put up, I believe, 13 points last week. DeMarco Murray played Green Bay defense. He put up 21. If Robert Kelly does just half of that, that gives me double digits right there. And I expect him to do at least half of that against the Green Bay defense. Because, as I said before, Washington wants to keep Green Bay off the field. Then I have Antonio Brown going against Cleveland. I love that matchup. Then I have Odell Beckham going against Chicago. I love that matchup. Dante Moncrief going against Tennessee. I love that matchup. On the other side, David Johnson against Minnesota. I think David Johnson is going to put up double digits, but I don't think it's going to be a 20-point game. Jordy Nelson against Washington. I think Jordy will give you a touchdown. He'll give you double digits. I think that's going to be fine. I think LaShawn McCoy will do okay. I think DeMarco Murray is going to play great, but I don't think Jameis Winston is going to be able to carry his weight. He's going to Kansas City. And in Kansas City, that defense, that team in general has been playing very, very well. They're going to struggle. And believe it or not, I know you're going to be like, what? But you're missing your kicker. And that kicker that you have is probably the best kicker in fantasy football right now. He's like a guaranteed double digits every single week. You're not going to have that this week. And I think that's ultimately going to hurt you. Yes, I'm going to have to figure out my tight end situation, but I have a couple ideas that I'm going to probably do there. But I'm going to go with the powers here, and I think it's going to make our division so much more interesting because there will be, if my picks are correct, a 4-way tie for first place in our division.
Look, I don't want interesting. I want to win.
But everybody, listen, that's our show. It's going to be fun. Good luck to everybody. Thursday has really good games going on, so make sure you guys all tune in for that. Get your lineups in. Stay safe. We out. Peace.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Good luck, Anthony. Good luck.
I'm going to need it.